Hello, my name's Fiona and this little scruffball is Cora, and we are going on an adventure today. We are going to go to Inveraray, which is a little town in Argyle and Bute at the west coast of Scotland, and it's on the western shores of Loch Fyne. So we're going to have a wee wander about the town, see what there is to do for dogs, check out some of the touristy things, hopefully some of the non-touristy things, and also grab a wee bite to eat. So the first place I'm stopping today in Inveraray is somewhere that's been on my bucket list for so long. It is Inveraray Jail. Now this is actually dog friendly, which for a museum you don't tend to find dog friendly museums that often. So we're going to go and check it out. It was a real jail and a courthouse in the 1800s, and now obviously it's a museum to tell you all about the history. And because we're in a pandemic, I need to wear a mask inside, so please excuse when I'm talking with a mask on. However, you'll see less of my face and more of the dog. To go between the buildings you don't need your mask on because you have to go outside to go to them, so that's where I'll mainly do my talking. So you start off your tour in the sort of courthouses, and it takes you through the history of what would be crimes, what the punishments would be, and a lot of people wouldn't go to jail for that. And then you make your way down into another building, which is the old prison. And the old prison, there is a man outside who's probably behind me. It tells you a bit about the history of the old prison. So for example, when it was first started in the 1820s, it was from children from 7 years up until adults, all tried as adults, all in horrible conditions. It was cramped, it was damp, it wasn't very nice. And it eventually became one of the nicest places to be in Inveraray. For example, it had heating, it had running water, it had electricity, and it turns out that 2/3 of the prisoners that were in, when they were released, reoffended because it was so much nicer in there than out in the actual real world. As you walk around the buildings, there's stories and plaques about things that had happened. For example, people escaping and the windows that they escaped from and how they did it. There was leaky roofs, and then there's also this guy, which was the prison cow. So when they would have their porridge, sometimes they wouldn't have fresh milk and they'd have to have it with treacle. And when the prison eventually got in a cow on site to be made, but this cow got confiscated because it wasn't actually approved to be on site. However, I think it's a pretty good idea. This is one of the cells in the new prison. It's not big, but you've seen the state they are at the time, and there's heating and there was lights, so it was actually a nicer prison than the old prison where the women were still kept, and it tended to be one person per cell. I have to bribe her with treats so that she's quiet. Excuse me. Now come out of the window. No, come on. No. Cora.
Boy, what are you looking at? Don't tell the warden I'm here. Shh, I'll be going soon. Keep watch.
So this is a crank machine, and what the crank machine is just useless labour. So it doesn't actually do anything, it was just a punishment for the male prisoners, and they'd have to do over 14,000 cranks of the crank wheel, which is quite hard work. Now this cell here is actually a replica of one in Glasgow that was modelled on the prison here, and the cells are still like this today, so this is what the cells look like in one of the working prisons in Glasgow now. So I actually had the best time there. The dogs are allowed to go everywhere you go. There's no signs that say keep them under control or anything. It's very, very trusting, and the staff are so nice. They were telling me they have been dog friendly since the day they opened, which was 31 years ago. So 31 years worth of dogs popping in and out of all the jail cells, and it was so interesting as well. The history obsessed person in me got so much out of that, and I highly recommend it. Inveraray was rebuilt in the 1700s, and all the buildings look mega old, and it's actually one of the best examples there is in Scotland of a new town from the 18th century. Now, a lot of these buildings are still standing, and they are deemed worthy of protecting. It's everybody's houses and businesses, and it's pretty cool. just taking a wee minute to have some lunch. I got a wee takeaway soup and bread from a little cafe called Brambles, which I think is attached to a hotel from what I can gather. Quite a few dog friendly places that people recommended. The George Hotel was outstanding food, but it's more pub, and that's dog friendly. And also the Inveraray Inn just there, I hear is dog friendly as well and very nice. So there's plenty to choose from. There's lots of little cafes and shops as you walk along as well. This is probably nothing to a lot of people, but there's a wee refill water station. I'm so happy. So that's our day in Inveraray over and done with. Our parking is just about to run out, so we're going to head back through to Edinburgh. It's about 2.5 hours, and it's a beautiful drive. I never mentioned that before. It's right along the water, past Loch Lomond, beautiful big mountains and hills, so it is an absolute joy to drive it. So we will see you next time.